Okay, time to talk about strings. So we use strings a lot in programming. We take them apart, we put them together, we create new ones, we delete old ones, just lots of things. And I'll introduce you to some of the basic concepts when it comes to using strings. So as you see, we've already run this statement. We have a message, welcome to Python 101 strings. Then we've run the print message and you see the output down in the console. So one of the things we can do is print a message multiple times. And you could do that by concatenating the message. So just by typing a plus sign and then the message again. So if we run that, we'll get the string, just the two strings put together with no space in between them. So that's one way of doing that. You can achieve exactly the same thing by multiplying the string, which seems a bit weird. But if we multiply that by 2, we'll get exactly the same result. So no difference, the strings are just put together. So there's another way we can do this, and that is to separate these by a comma and say message, message. So what's going to happen then? Now you see a space has been inserted after the strings. So the comma does that. And this is actually a statement you can use inside print, and I think you use it in input as well. But I'm not sure if you can put together strings in a variable by doing this. But at least now you know 3 different ways of multiplying strings. So there we go. So another thing we might want to do is change the casing of the string. So there's some different ways we can do that. We can say upper, which will, and then parentheses, nothing inside the parentheses. If we run that, the whole string will become uppercase. And you might guess that we can do the same thing by saying lower, like that. And that is going to give us the whole string in lowercase. But we can do more. We can say capitalize. It will actually make sure that only the first word in the string is capitalized. So then we get that result. So as you see, it even changed the capitalization of the word Python. It's now in lowercase, but the first letter, which was previously in lowercase, is now in uppercase. Now, if you wanted all the different words to have uppercase, there's actually a function for that as well. And that function is called title. That will give us this result. So each of the words are capitalized. Now it actually fails sometimes. For instance, when we have an apostrophe in what we're writing. So I'll introduce one up here. So let's say we have it's, and now I've messed up the string as well, so I need to introduce an escape character to make it easy. There we go. So if I run it now, and you take a look at the result, you'll see that welcome to it's, and then there's an apostrophe, and it interprets the S as a new word. So the S also gets capitalized, which is not optimal, but it sort of works, except when you have that situation. Okay, so those are some basic things that we can do with changing the aspects of the string. So let's remove those, and let's try some other stuff. Let's find out some information about the string. So for instance, let's say we want to find out how long the string is. And we'll also get rid of this. It's just going to be annoying. There we go. So print message, and what I want now is to find out the length of the message. There's a command called len, which is short for length, which will give us the length of the string. Let's run that. It's 30 characters long. Great. So another thing we can find out is we can count the number of instances of a certain word or a letter. And we do that by the command count. And that looks like this. So let's say message.count. And what do we want to count? We want to count the instances of Python. We'll run that. How many instances are there? There are 0. And that's because it's case sensitive. So it's now only looking for lowercase Python. So if we change it to uppercase, it will find 1 instance. Now, of course, we could search for something else. We could search for just the letter O and see how many we find. There are 3 O's in Python 101, or in the whole string. Great. So that's how you measure the length of a string, and then how you count how many instances of something you have in the string. But we can do more stuff. We're going to go into something called slicing strings. Slicing. So slicing strings is getting parts of a string and returning them. So let me give you an example. So the way strings in Python are numbered is in the following way. The numbering starts at 0. So the first character is 0, or the first position. Then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. And it's the same thing for lists in Python. So to access this, first we'll need to comment this out so that it doesn't get run. So the way to access this is to use square brackets. I'll input square brackets, number 0, and that will give us the letter W If I use number 5, it will give us M, because that's the 6th position, which is number 5. Now you can also use negative indexes on this. So for instance, if I take -1, this will give me the last character. That gives me S. If I take -3, it will give me the N. So that's second from the last, as it starts at -1 is the last one. There's another way to use this. So if I say 2, the colon will tell Python to grab everything after the number 2 string. So in this case, if I do this, I will get almost the whole thing. I'll come to Python 101 strings. If I specify an endpoint, now it gets a bit more interesting. So let's say 15, see where that winds up. Welcome to Pyth. So let's do another one that we can count. So there. So now I've asked for 2 to 7, and 2, that specifies the second position. 7 is the 7th one, but it's not inclusive. So it takes up to that, but it doesn't actually take the 7th one, as you'll see from the outcome that we have. We have position 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, but not number 7. That's kind of important to keep in mind. And then lastly, if I turn it around, remove the 2, Python will now assume that I want everything starting from 0. So this will give me the whole string up until the 6th one. So welcome. All right, let's start with that and continue with some more string information in the next tutorial. See you then.